should you read the book before watching the TV show? And specifically, should you read Wheel of Time before watching the upcoming Amazon Prime TV show? It's premiering on November 19th, so if you wanted to start the series, you only have a little less than 3 months to do so. But should you? So first, let's talk about what an adaptation is and kind of the different categories that I break it down into. So the first category that I want to talk about is going to be just your retellings or reimaginings of the same either story or character or universe. So when I'm talking about reimaginings, I'm thinking of things like, what was that one that just came out? Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which was reimagined into, what was it, the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina? The Dark Adventures of Sabrina? The Marvelous Misadventures of Sabrina? I don't know, I didn't watch that show. But it's a reimagining. The point is that it's a you've got the same concept, the same idea, but you're putting a new spin on it. However, it's still in the same medium. It's still presented to you in the same medium. And so when I say the same medium, even though this was a 90s sitcom to a Netflix series, which arguably is different, for our purposes, we're going to consider them the same because it's still telling you the story through 15-minute, 30-minute, hour-long episodes, and the story is kind of told over the whole season or multiple seasons. The second category is going to be your revivals. And so when I'm thinking revivals, I'm thinking of like Fuller House, or recently they did this for the Gilmore Girls. It is the same story, but a continuation of it, with a time jump in the middle most of the time. It's kind of a continuation, or you could almost also put spin-offs in this category. It's just that revival. You're using the same concepts, the same universe, the same characters, telling it in basically the same way, but you're continuing the story. So that's the second category that I would put, that I would break adaptations down into. But the third category is the one that I want to talk about today, and that is a true adaptation. So you have the adaptation from one medium to another, with another interpretation by the author, the storyteller. And I think that's why they call it an adaptation, because while not only is it going from one medium to another, like a book to a TV show, a video game to a movie, any of those, one medium to another, it's also going from the author's mind to the producer's mind, we'll say. Anytime there's an adaptation, it's nice to see the content in its purest intended form, so how the author really wanted you to see it. And that's true whether it's a book or a movie or a video game or whatever the medium is. What's really important is how the author or creator is trying to present it to you and your interpretation of it, which is different from my interpretation of it. So with that being said, I think that adaptation in its purest form is a telling of the same story with the same characters, just on a different medium. And adaptations generally try to stay more true to the original story, but they do sometimes deviate. Which we've seen with, Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, those kind of things. They did deviate a little bit, but it's more a deviation for the sake of logistics, for the sake of going from one medium to the next. I love adaptations. I love when something goes from one medium to another, like video games to a movie, or books to TV shows. I love it. I love adaptations. And so I think the main reason I like it is because I get to share I get to share a story that I really enjoy with somebody else who doesn't like the original medium that it comes from. And let me explain that further. So, I like to read and play video games. My husband doesn't like to do either of those things. But when they make a video game into a movie or a book series into a TV show, then suddenly I can experience that story again with my husband and kind of share the story that I love with him. And so I am always excited to hear about adaptations. But so even though I love adaptations, does that mean that you need to read the books before watching the TV show? Or should you read the books before watching the TV show? And I think that these are the key questions that you need to ask yourself before taking that on. Even though we're mainly going to be discussing the Wheel of Time series, I do think that these are the same questions you're going to kind of want to keep in mind if you're thinking about other adaptations from book to TV. It's nice to see the story in its purest intended form, so how the author presented it originally. And that's not to say that that's going to be the same as how you interpret it. But I think that we can all agree when we read a book, yes, this is what was written. We may not agree with, yes, this is what was said, but yes, this is what was written. And how you interpret what was written is kind of what develops your experience with the story. And now your experience with the story might not align with what the adaptation, with what the story is in the adaptation. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that the adaptation is bad, because an adaptation is not judged by how good it is based on how true it is, how true to the original form it is. The adaptation is judged based on how appealing it is. And there's a very distinct line between the two, but I think that a lot of people in their minds it blurs. And I don't like that. So if you choose to not read the books before the TV show, there's going to be a lot of things that you'll miss. And they're going to be like little references, little foreshadowings, little tidbits here and there, or little like fan service nuggets that you might miss. And I think that while they're not necessary to the story, it does add something to the adaptation. It does add a level of, oh, okay, like other layers. Like, it just adds more layers. And I think that you don't need them, like I said, for the story. But if that's something that you enjoy, you'd be missing out on it. So I mention this because I am really nosy. I like knowing all of the secrets. I like being in the in club. I just like knowing all the secrets. And so because of that, I feel like that's something that I would miss, even though I would really appreciate it. The trailer that Amazon Prime just released a couple weeks ago already had a lot of references and foreshadowing that you might have missed. A lot of it was fan service too, to be honest. Now, don't get me wrong, if you've never seen Wheel of Time before and you watch the trailer, I still think you'll be blown away. But I do think that a lot of what's in the trailer is specifically for the fans. But in addition to that, you're going to inevitably be spoiled by something. Whether it's major or minor, it kind of depends, I guess, on the circumstance. But the series itself is 15 books long, including the prequel. And I think that one of the main differences between... So this series keeps getting compared to Game of Thrones. It's going to be the next Game of Thrones. That's what every fantasy TV show has been saying since Game of Thrones ended. But I think that this one will, because it's got the same fan base that Game of Thrones readers had to begin with, right? Because I remember when Game of Thrones first premiered, I remember I was still living at home with my dad, and my dad was like, "Oh, I've read these books. I am so excited for the series. It's gonna be great. We're gonna watch it together," and we did. So I started watching from the beginning, from the date that it aired, because my dad had read the books, and I feel like Wheel of Time kind of has that same like reader fan base. And so all of these readers are going to be like, no, come on, we're going to go sit down and we're going to watch this TV show. You're going to love it. The other thing, too, is that unlike Game of Thrones, the Wheel of Time is complete. It's got a nice, crisp, clean ending to the series. And it does it. It wraps most things up nicely. That's kind of a tangent. So anyway, back to the spoilers thing. The series has been out for over 10 years. I don't know the exact time. It's been out a long time. And there's 15 books, including the prequel. So that being said, there's tons of stuff that can be spoiled. Whether it's major plot points, minor plot points. There are so many plot threads in this series that I can't even count them all. It's literally a weave of plot points, if you will. Because the Wheel of Time has so many plot threads and so many like characters and different archetypes and different arcs is what I meant to say, not archetypes. Different arcs. I think that a lot of the times people don't even know that what they're talking about is a spoiler. So if I were to if you were to say, oh, I'm currently reading the point of view of this one character named blank, and I'm like, oh, blank, is that the one that does XYZ? And then they're like, well, I don't know, I didn't read anything about XYZ yet, but now I know that they did. And that happens, right? Like, it's an accidental spoiler. It's super easy to do in Wheel of Time because it is so long. And, it's so long, so it's hard to keep track of what happens in what book. Especially if you splurge read them and read them all at once, then they all kind of melt together. Which is awesome about the Wheel of Time as a series, because even though, yes, there are clear arcs in each series, for the most part, each book picks up exactly where the last one left off, which is kind of nice. But another thing to consider is how, if you want to start reading the books, how much can you get through before the series comes out? So we're a little less than 3 months away, 3-ish, maybe 2.5, something around there, 3-ish months away, and Rafe Judkins, showrunner Rafe Judkins, has said that the first season will cover parts of book 1, most of book 1, parts of book 2, and some parts of book 3, but not all of book 1, because some of that's going to be covered in season 2. I also think that he was quoted as saying that it will include some parts of the prequel New Spring, which, if you shouldn't read the prequel until you get to a certain point in the series. Not that it adds anything that would spoil the rest of the series, but just kind of, I don't think that you can appreciate what the prequel New Spring is doing until you get to a certain point in the book. Not the book, but the series, that's the word. So that being said, you might not even get through to maybe 3 books before the TV show comes out. If I really, really tried, I probably could, but it would not be fun, and I wouldn't enjoy it. Not that I'm a slow reader, I'm actually a pretty fast reader, and these are meaty books. They're hefty. You might not finish it before the show, and that's okay. I think if you wanted to start it and you wanted to watch what the series covers, I'd try and do up to book 3, but I wouldn't worry about it too much if you don't quite make it there. I'm sure there are people in the world who could finish the whole series before November. I am not one of them. So let's just assume, for the sake of argument, that we're only talking about the first 3 books that the series will cover. Because here's the other problem too. Wheel of Time is very character-based. Not that it's not plot-driven or character-driven, but it's just very rooted in its characters, right? The characters, even though there is a plot, the characters are what make the story. And that being said, it's a very, very slow burn. It's a very slow, methodical burn on how you kind of connect with the characters and kind of watch these characters develop and kind of fumble through their arc. So I don't think that, like, it's kind of weird, right? Because when I first read the series, it was recommended to me by my dad, and my dad has a particular favorite character in this series, who I think is a lot of people's favorite character, or at least in their top 3 favorite characters. And the character in this series, even though is a main character, I feel like I didn't meet that character until about book, and I want to say book 2 or book 3. I want to say book 3. I didn't feel like I met that character and knew who that character was until book 3, even though I had been following this character throughout that first, throughout those first 3 books. When I was first introduced to that character and had been with that character for a little bit, I was like, Dad, I don't see why you like this character. I don't see the connection yet. And my dad goes, no, hang on, like, you'll get there. You just don't know the character yet. And there's a specific reason for that. There's a very specific reason for that. But you don't kind of get to see that difference when you're reading the books. Or at least for me, I didn't, right? I didn't really see that difference until I got to the other side of it. The whole point of this is to say that it takes you a while to kind of understand the characters. And not that they're not likable, and not that you don't enjoy following them around, but it's a very slow build to build the base, right? That first base before you go into the arc, into the character arc. And I appreciate that now in retrospect, but when I got through those first 3 books, I definitely didn't. And so I feel like one of the things that the show is going to do differently is the show is going to lay that groundwork right up front. And I feel like this is a very powerful tool in like visual media, is being able to lay that groundwork right from the get-go. And that's what they're going to do. You're going to know who this character is, and then when you're going through that kind of first 3 book time with this character, you're going to understand. You're going to understand what this character is going through. Whereas me, I didn't at all. I completely missed it until my dad had to sit me down and say, Jess, this is what you missed. I'm a pretty bad reader. I tend to miss a lot. I love reading, but sometimes I'm bad at it. So it's a long commitment for a book series that you might not even like. But I think that the most important thing to consider when you're thinking about should you read the books before the TV show is this. What do you get payoff from? Do you get payoff from finishing a TV show, or do you get payoff from finishing a book series? For me, I personally get payoff from finishing a book series, and here's why. When I'm reading a book series, or when I have just finished an awesome book, it becomes my whole personality for a while, and I all I want to do is spend my money on that fictional universe. And so the first thing I do is I go on Etsy and I search for the title of the book or the series, and I just blow all my money. All of it. But I don't feel that same way when I finish a TV series for some reason. Not that I don't enjoy TV or enjoy movies, I just don't get that same... I don't even have a description for that feeling that I get. It's like a prideful nostalgia, like a like a prideful nostalgia. That's the best way that I can describe it. And if you've got a better description for it, let me know. But I don't have the words for how that feels. So so the point is that I get really way more excited when I finish a book series than when I finish a TV show. But I'm definitely not the only person who feels that way, where once they finish a book series, they just want to stay in that universe. But on the flip side of that, I feel like there are a lot of people who get that same feeling after finishing a really good TV show or a really good movie. I think that that's kind of the key point on should you read the book before the TV show. And it really boils down to, do you get more excited after finishing a book series, or do you get more excited after finishing a TV show? How you answer that question is really going to determine whether or not you should read the books before the TV show. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm going to include a link for the Amazon Prime trailer for Wheel of Time, so that you can check it out. It is worth checking out, even if you haven't read the books. It's great. And if you're interested in starting the series before the TV show, I'm also going to link a video by Unraveling the Pattern. It really goes into the detail of kind of the logistics, more on the logistics end of the books than actual content. So there's absolutely no spoilers in it. It is, if you're brand new to the Wheel of Time series and you kind of want to know its roots and where it came from and why it's worth reading. I'm a pretty bad reader. I tend to miss a lot. I love reading, but sometimes I'm bad at it.